This is the To Be Single or Not to Be podcast, and we're doing what? Running it back.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the To Be Single or Not to Be podcast on the Shanna Montana YouTube channel. And today we are back with another episode of the Running It Back series. In this one, we are going to be talking about no more boyfriends. And while we had a certain energy when we talked about this a few years ago, today's energy is really going to center around just being really clear and intentional about what it is that you desire when it comes to a relationship, whether that is to have a boyfriend or to be married, and to make sure that you are properly communicating those things and making sure that when you meet somebody that you are not assuming that they want the best for you or assuming that they want the same thing that you want until you get that verbal confirmation. But before we tap into that, make sure you guys like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a review on your favorite pod platform. But also make sure that you go and follow my Instagram at Shanna Montana, To Be Single or Not to Be, and the SM Journal Collection. I appreciate all the love and support, and I wanted to just make sure I gave those reminders before we get into the meat of today's show. So that said, first things first, we have to just recognize that in 2024, because of society, because of social media, because of so many factors, the world's view of relationships and dating is absolutely different. You now live in a time where, people have polyamorous relationships, people have open relationships, people are okay with, being in long-term relationships and not getting married. People are okay with, not having just the old school American dream of the wife, the kid, the wife, the husband, the kids, the white picket fence, and the dog. That may be the American dream for some still, but for a lot of people, times have just changed with how we operate in the relationship space. And that is all the more reason why we have to be sure that we are clear about what we want before we get to the relationship space. And then when we get there where we may have a person that is a potential partner, that we are vetting that person to find out what is it that they want from the relationship space so that neither person's time is wasted. And I think it's so important that we are, it's not really about walking around just saying, oh, I'm dating with intention. It's more so just about walking around and understanding that I know exactly what I want in a partner. I'm not going to settle for anything less than what I deserve. I'm not going to compromise in areas that I don't need to. I'm not going to make sacrifices for people that aren't making sacrifices for me. And I'm not going to continue to engage with people, especially as I get older, that I know are just not aligned or are in the place in their life that I am, that I need in a partner, and that we really just cannot walk off into the sunset together. So it's essential that you get really clear about what that intentionality looks like beyond the term of dating with intention and just knowing that, but also understanding what is your goal in relationships. Because if you have a desire, I'll say personally, I have a desire to be married, but I'm not going to assume that every man that I meet wants to get married or wants to marry me. Or you can't assume that every man that you have a good time with is going to be the person that you're going to wind up in a relationship with, because they may not even be looking for anything long term. And I say that often. We sometimes get it twisted, ladies, when we assume that every time we go on a date with somebody or every time we have a good time with somebody, that person is supposed to be your boyfriend and then become your husband. No, no, no. Every man that you meet is not going to end up being your man. And you have to be okay with that. Because if you aren't okay with that, that is when you get in a position where a person comes along, they give you a little bit of sunshine, and that sunshine feels like 100%. But it's really only 25% of what you want. But because you're in this vulnerable or open or confused or unclear space, you mistake that 25% of sunshine for 100%, when if you had been really clear about what you wanted and you were really standing on business in regards to it, when that person came along and started to give you 25%, you would easily be able to decipher that this ain't it and move along. So that's all the more reason why it's important to get clear about what you want, because also, in getting clear about what you want, you may find that you've gotten so clear about what you want that you realize that right now you don't even want a damn relationship. So that's why it's important for us to know what we doing, who we dealing with, and what the circumstances are all the way around us. And I think that when we look at, I just think about my experience right now in the dating space. I'm outside a little bit. I'm on dating apps a little bit. I meet people here and there, a little bit. And I find that I meet people of all walks of life. I meet people that's on some go with the flow energy. They can go with the flow the hell away from me. I meet some people that's like, let's just vibe. I meet people that's like, I like you. I want to have you around, but it's not like a relationship kind of deal. I meet people that want a relationship instantly, so almost too fast. I meet people that want to get married, but it may not be the person that I'm supposed to marry. So because I feel like I meet all these different flavors of men and they have all these different intentions. It could be very easy for me, and I'm sure women like yourself, you know, that you could meet a man, and if you aren't clear about what you want because you're meeting so many different things, their ideas could somehow become your ideas if you aren't careful. And then you wind up in a situation a year later trying to figure out, like Deborah Cox, how did we get here? You know, that ain't no. You wind up in a situation a year later, like Deborah Cox, trying to figure out, because nobody's supposed to be here. So I think it's that's all the more reason why you got to get clear. Now the next thing is going to be when it comes to being intentional about dating and being intentional about communicating what you want and asking the right questions and believing what a person shows you who they are, actually believing that. The thing is, you can get as clear as you want to. You can have your non-negotiables, you can have your boundaries, you can have your standards, you can have your requirements, you can have all these things in place. But if you make a decision to not be serious about those things, and you meet somebody and they only fulfill 25% of your list, and because you like the way they look, or you like the way they smell, or you like what they're talking about, you make a decision to throw the other 75% of your list out the window, that is when you might need to just step back, because you probably ain't ready to be dating if it's that easy. But the other thing is, if you are making decisions like that, you need to figure out why. And I'm going to put a kind of stop and talk about this a little bit more, because I don't think it's talked about enough, that many times, ladies, we have to own that, and we have to take accountability that a lot of times, you know, you meet people. I'm not a clinician, I can't diagnose nobody, but you meet liars, you meet cheaters, you meet people that may have narcissistic traits, you may meet a sociopath. But at the end of the day, we meet a lot of people that do show us who they are very early on. And we tend to ignore that, or we tend to say it's okay, or we tend to, you know, just accept it because we're having a good time. And we know that if we're in a space where we're saying, like, we want to have a good time with people, but we also want to be intentional about the fact, like, I only really want to date people that are on the same wavelength I'm on, meaning people that are looking for serious relationships that could possibly turn into marriage. Because again, what I just say, everybody that you meet ain't gonna be your man, but you also know that you only want to date people that are on the same wavelength that you are. So if you have all these things in place, if you've taken the time, the energy, and the attention to put and pour into yourself, to sit down and come up with this list of what all these things are, your non-negotiables, your standards, your boundaries, your requirements. You take the time, as busy as you are, you take the time to do it. Yet and still, every time you meet somebody and they don't fulfill most of what you have on that list, and you are making a decision to still engage with that person, to still run off into the Delulu land sunset and, you know, try to build something with that person, and a period of time later, you're trying to figure out, why am I here? Why do I not, you know, why do I continue to be unlucky in love? Why do I continue to be like, if you watch Love is Blind, like AD and Clay on Love is Blind, the red flags were slapping the shit out of that lady. And she just wanted to get chose. So she decided to walk down the aisle with that man, knowing damn well that man did not want to marry her. Or maybe she thought he did. The world knew he didn't want to marry her. But at the end of the day, when you choose to ignore the red flags, when you choose to ignore your gut, when you choose to ignore your intuition, when you choose to ignore what you know is right for yourself and is right about you, that is when you are going to wind up in a bad situation every single time. So ladies, I really, really, really want us to do better with being able to really sit down and identify what it is we desire in a relationship, articulate those goals to the people that are worthy of the conversation. Because I ain't saying you got to walk around with that running list and run it by everybody. You'll know who you're supposed to run it by. But once you have those conversations and you start to figure out, like, is this somebody that I could potentially date or could potentially be in a relationship with, and you're finding through conversation that this person is not aligning the way that you need them to align, you need to align your ass out the door, plainly put. So I think that we need to I know we have to do a better job ourselves with not just saying that we're dating with intention, but actually date with a positive intention of winning in the relationship space. Because if we keep moving like that, it's no way that we can win, you know, if we're moving in that way. And I think that another part of that is being able to understand that people in this world, you can't allow people in this world to sway your decisions either. You know, you have society pressure, you got pressure from friends, you got pressure from family, you got a lot of different variables that are going to play a role in how you look at relationships and what people want you to do, that sometimes want the best for you. But you have to know, like, if something is not working out, that the thing about love is that even though we have this invisible time clock always running in the background of life, love does not have a time clock on it. And whether you are getting in a relationship or a marriage at 30, at 40, at 50, at 60, and whether you get to experience a love for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or 1 year, the love is there to experience, and the love is there for you to have, and the love is there for you to enjoy. So why go through life like thinking like I have to hurry up and get to it, when what is for me is for me, and what is for me is going to be there for me whenever I get to it. And the other thing I think about is like me being in my 30s right now, and I'm not in a relationship. I've had relationships that did not end in marriage, clearly, but I also know that for me, I feel like had I gotten, or had I met a person that say, wanted to be married, and I made a decision to marry a person, when I think of any of my previous partners, or even if it was somebody that I wasn't with in the past, I don't think that I would be able to, I would have shown up in the relationship space the way that I show up now, because then I just didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the know-how. I just wasn't the woman that I am now then, to where I think I would have been able to really be successful in a marriage, or really be able to sustain a marriage, or really be able to enjoy the marriage I needed to. So I think it is, I think it can be done, because everybody's different. And so you have to, if you're with the person, say if you get married at 25, you got to be with somebody that you can learn and grow with and from. And I just think that when I think on certain partners, or I'm not going to put it on a certain partner, but just in the place I was in my life then, if I think about 10 years ago, I don't know if I would have been ready to receive and show up for love in a relationship the way that I would now. So for me, it's almost like a blessing to know that I will get married, and I will have an opportunity to experience that deep love, and that I'll be able to show up in the space and know how to give that, know how to receive it, know how to show up for my husband and do those things, whereas I don't think I would have before. So that's why I say, I don't care about that invisible time clock that's ticking behind me. And even though people try to put it on your shoulder and make you always think about it, I don't worry about it, because the love is going to come. And in the interim, well, I'm not in a relationship, I still have the love. I still have the love in my heart. I still have the love around me. And I think that's another piece we have to think about, is that if you are innately happy and you have the love within yourself, it's so easy for you to just go through life and have this joy and have this happiness and have this peace that's inside of you, to the point that when somebody else comes around that does not bring you the sunshine that you are looking for, does not meet the requirements that you need, is not showing up in that space the way that you would want a partner to, it's so easy to dismiss those situations, because you know they are not bringing you the happiness and the sunshine that you already have innately within you. And when you meet somebody that's able to add to that, it's like, oh, okay, this person may be on to something. I may need to keep this person around a little bit longer. But if we don't have that sunshine inside of us already, and somebody comes along and you think they're giving you 100% of sunshine, but in reality they're only giving you 25%, but it feels like 100% because you aren't happy internally, you look up, and 6 months to a year later, you're trying to figure out how the hell did you get there with this person, that in reality now you can finally see that they were not giving you as much joy or as much sunshine as you thought, but that was only because you were not innately happy already. So I think that is another layer that we have to make sure we pay attention to. Am I happy already? Do I have joy in my life already? Am I ready to show up in a relationship and really be able to add to it? And I'm not looking for a relationship to give me happiness. I'm not looking for a relationship to give me my peace. I'm not looking for my relationship to give me my joy. I got all that shit already. This relationship is going to only add value to my life. It's going to add a layer of joy I already got. It's going to add a layer of happiness. It's going to add a layer of peace. It's going to add a layer of fun. And that's why I think it's a term that people tend to minimize when we talk about being equally yoked or coming from the same wavelength. That's another reason why that is so important, because you want somebody that's going to be able to show up to the job and y'all able to, it's an easy push and pull. I can give you the same things that you had, that I can give you what I'm asking for of you. I can pour into you the way I'm looking for you to pour into me. It's not something where, the pendulum has swung so far to the left or right where you're living in two different worlds. But at the same time, that's why you have to bring it back to the core. If I already have these things, as I just said, if I already have that peace, if I already have that joy, if I already have that love, if I already have that happiness, if I already have that stability, when you come along and I see that you can add to that, and you're not taking away my peace, you're not taking away my joy, you're not taking away my happiness, you're not taking away my finances, you're not taking away from me, it's like, I know that this may be something that I need to hold on to. So I think that we, as ladies, as women, have to do a better job with really just looking at that. And that's why I always say the other part about when you really do love yourself, because people always say, I love myself, I love myself. And I think you do have a love for yourself. But when you really break it down and think about, do I really love every single part of me? And we all have days and times where every part of our being may not seem like the most lovable to us, but do I really love every part of me deeply? Am I really happy? Do I really have joy? Do I really have peace? Do I really have love in myself? When you really have those things in yourself, it makes it so much easier for you to not let people come along and play with you when they don't give it to you the same way that you give it to yourself. Because I do love myself so much. That's why it's so easy if a motherfucker come around me and I see you playing with me, or I see you ain't trying to have no love for me, you got to get up out of here. Because I only operate in a space where it's love over here. I only operate in a space where it's peace over here. I only operate in a space when it's joy, because we have so many other factors in the world, whether it be work, life, friends, family, they're going to pull away from us. Sometimes they pull away our joy, they pull away our peace, they pull away our happiness, just because life happens, life sometimes, and those things are affected. So those are like the variables that are built in. Like, I know that shit's going, I know life gonna happen in certain ways where it affects me in certain ways, but I'm gonna bounce back from that. Those are things that a situation happens, it may pull on my peace and my joy, I can figure that out and I can bounce back from it and get back to the core of who I am. But if I'm gonna let a person come over here and play with me consistently and almost like try to destroy my life, because you're really playing with my life at this point. If I'm gonna let you in my space, in a relationship space, you really are playing with my life if you're playing with me. It's that serious, and people got to think about it that way. But back to the main point, if you truly love yourself in the ways that I just talked about, you will not allow people in your life that aren't showing up and giving you love in that way, or people that you end up in a relationship with, or people that say they love you. There's no way I'm gonna let somebody say they love me and then treat me in a way that definitely shows me that it's no way you could love me. And if that's what love looks like to you, I don't really want it. So we got to be able to tap into that. And it's I feel like since the beginning of time, people always have said, you got to love yourself first before you can love somebody else. You got to love yourself first before somebody else can love you. And it finally just like clicked to me one day, because I used to really think about that statement so much, like, what does it mean? Because it's like, I care about myself. I get up every day, I take a shower, I brush my teeth, I go to work, I take care of my things, I do the things in life that show that my self-care. I do all these things in my life that show, yeah, I love myself. But when I really sat back and thought about it, and I recognized that, on one hand, how can I love myself if I allow people to consistently treat me like shit? And for anybody that's listening to this, if you're in a situation, or you consistently get in situations where people treat you less than what you deserve, you got to think about, do I really love myself if I'm allowing this to happen to me? If I'm allowing myself to have a piece of a man, if I'm allowing myself to be cheated on, to be lied to, if I'm allowing myself to be in a situation where I know I'm not the only woman, if I'm allowing myself to be abused in any way, if I'm allowing myself just to be mistreated across the board, I started to think about that. I can't love myself. And then the other side was, I was at a place where I didn't have consistent and high joy in my life. I wasn't happy fully with my life. I wasn't at peace with my life. And I wasn't at a place where I didn't have all this like maybe trauma or grief or things in my heart. It was a lot of layers that I had to step back and look at and heal a lot of things. Healing is a journey. I got a whole series on that. So it was like I had to take a step back and get to a place where I could really say I have these things and not just be saying the shit to say it. And so for me, that was the biggest part of once I got to this place where I am right now on this day, where I know what it means to have peace in my heart, in my life. It feels great. It feels so great that's why I don't give a fuck about not having a relationship right now, because I'm happy. I'm at peace. I got joy. It's not fleeting. It's here. And even if something happens to me, something happens in life, because shit's gonna happen, I can still get back to it because I know where it is. I know where to find it. I know I got my toolkit. I know what I gotta do in order to get back to that place. But that's why also I know, and y'all know, we gonna be single for a little while longer, because we know these things, and because we have our self-worth and we have our value, and we don't allow people to play with us. That's the other part of it, that people, we gotta forget that invisible time clock that's in the background ticking, because you are going to be single a little bit longer when you value yourself. You're going to be single a little bit longer when you don't let people play games with you. You're going to be single a little bit longer when you're not dating just for looks. You're going to be single a little bit longer when you aren't compromising unnecessarily, when you aren't making, stupid sacrifices. You're going to be single a little bit longer when you recognize the person is a little crazy. You say, I'm going to let you ride. You're going to be single a little bit longer when you realize that, like, this was just fun. It was a little fun. I gotta go. You gonna be single a little while longer with certain situations, and you gotta be okay with that. And I'm truly okay with it. That's why, I could rock the way that I do. And that's what I really want for everybody, and why we have conversations like this, because you got to be okay with it. You can't let, the you can't let the world make the decision for you when it comes to your relationship life, and understanding that, no more boyfriends. Well, it'll never be a boyfriend again if I can't find the one that I'm looking for, and I'm okay with that. So, but I know, child, niggas like buses, missed one, next 15 one coming. I'm definitely not worried about that. It's clear. Let's be clear though. Even if you don't have a man, it's never a shortage of men around. I'm just put that sprinkle in the atmosphere. Say that again. Even when I don't have a man, it's never a shortage of men around. And I'm not talking about sleeping with men, all the men that's around. Just knowing companionship is always there. And we'll just leave it at that. So that's it. I want to just point out that when it comes to getting intentional about dating and knowing what you want, a huge thing I want us to really tap into is like the respect, the trust, the communication, and what it is that you are looking for in a strong partnership, and just not compromising on that. Because many times, we get with people, and as I always say, we end up doing the bending. But you have to get to a place where you understand that that whole equally yoked part is going to come back into play now. Because if I'm with somebody that, we respect each other the same, we get to know each other the same, we get to know each other, so we care about each other the same, we're building that trust, we communicate a lot often. We communicate about everything, because especially in the beginning, it's a lot of conversations you gotta have to get to know a person. It's a lot of conversations you gotta have to understand a person, and it's a lot of observations you gotta make to make sure you ain't missing shit about a person. Because I had this thought the other day, y'all. One of my exes, I was like, I need to go and get that Patreon cracking, because I was about to give y'all a story time. But I ain't ready to put y'all that in my business. I'm gonna tell y'all that story one day. It was about me I feel like as that relationship started to end, I feel like the relationship started to go downhill, like almost like sabotage, which I'm glad that relationship ended. But I feel like it was some sabotage that was happening for that relationship to kind of start to go downhill, because I was getting closer and closer to finding out certain things about that man that man didn't want me to know about him. But part of that was my fault too, because when I was in that relationship, I was the go with the flow bitch. It's funny now. They say laugh now, cry later. I was the person that just kind of let things happen to me, and because I am in real time, in real life, I'm a very easygoing person. So I would very much so observe things or see things. It wasn't like things were like directly harmful, but it was just like I would observe things, I would see things and I would think about things that was like, that's not okay, that's not normal, that shouldn't be happening, that should be happening. But I just kind of let the thoughts stay in my head until the end. So I'm gonna tell y'all this. I'm gonna tell y'all some stories one day, but just know that the communication piece in that is super duper important, and it's something that you can't ignore. So overall, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that when it comes to no more boyfriends, it's more so just about understanding no more boyfriends if you have the intention of getting into a long-term relationship and getting married. It's more so about being clear about what it is that you desire, and not assuming that everybody that you meet, number one, is going to be your man. Not assuming that everybody that you meet is going to think, move, and want the same things that you want. And also not assuming that everybody that you meet wants the best for you, because some people absolutely don't give a fuck about you, or may even want the worst for you. So it's up to you to make sure that you are doing the necessary work to get clear about what you want, showing up in those spaces, being able to communicate that. And when something is not serving you in the way that you desire, making a decision to be really serious about walking away. But if it is something that you desire, and you're with a person where you are equally yoked and you're able to hold hands and walk forward in life and do great things, that you then show up fully in that space, and know that you have to do your part too. Because I think that's another conversation we got to have about. Sometimes we think that just being pretty is enough, that we could just show up in the dating space and not really give much other than, good looks and vibes. And we have to be able to show up in the space and give as much to that person as we want them to give to us. So no more boyfriends. Dating with an intention of whatever it is that you desire, being clear about that, and standing on business when it comes to it. Stop doing the bending. Stop compromising. And that's all I got for y'all on this episode of the To Be Single or Not To Be podcast. Signing off, yours truly, Shanna Montana.